2015, an elite DFS Army Commando unit formed to bring high-level DFS strategy to the masses. Today, hated by DFS sharks and lineup sellers alike, they continue their quest to turn Joe into DFS pros.
All right, welcome back to another DFS Army Daily Fantasy Football Bold Calls podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Allen, a.k.a. the Fantasy Football Geek. I've got season-long Sez on the line with me. What's up, Sez?
How are you?
All right, I'm excited. So today we're going to talk about the wide receiver position. We've already covered in previous pods. We've got the running backs. We've got some general best ball strategy. We've talked about a few different positions. So today we're going to talk about our wide receiver rankings, a little bit of strategy as far as where we want to actually draft the wide receivers in our draft compared to, running backs and, kind of where to take which player. So let's just dive right in. I love talking about all the top-notch guys, the sleepers, some late picks. There's a lot of depth at the wide receiver position. Would you agree, Alan?
Yeah, wide receiver is really deep this year, and it's heavy at the top. I think that as we go through it, you'll see there's a definite top two tiers where you feel really great about putting those guys into your lineups every week. And then it starts to become, the wide receiver position is very volatile as it is, but then it becomes a little more volatile. So this is a draft where running backs are going up the board fast and furious. Let's explore today also if there's an opportunity to go wide receiver in the first couple rounds while everyone's snatching up those running backs.
Yeah, I think that a lot of that depends on where you are in the first round, where you're picking and who's around. So now there's a few different people have these things broken down a few different ways. I think the consensus would be that your top three wide receivers are Hopkins, Brown, and Odell Beckham. I mean, would you agree with that?
In some order, yes. I think those are that's a clear tier one.
All right, so are we putting all three, though, in tier one? Because by ADP, Odell is going off the board significantly after Hopkins and Brown. Would you see all three of these guys as a top as the same tier, where Odell is kind of presenting an extreme value, coming off the board, ADP about number 12, so right at the end of the first round, last pick in the first round. What do you think there? With Brown going off 5th overall and Odell 12th with Hopkins in the middle.
So ADP is your average draft position, and that certainly represents all the mocks, all of the best ball drafts. But I think Odell Beckham, as you pointed out, is being underpriced right now. I know how much you love Hopkins, and I think he does have the best hands in the NFL. And I love Deshaun Watson as a potential breakout. But something has made me change my mind. I've recently moved Odell Beckham a tick above Hopkins. So I'm going to say that the Brown, Hopkins, Odell Beckham is one tier all in itself. And I think a case should be made for all three of them to be in the first round.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely not on board with that. I still have DeAndre Hopkins as my number one overall wide receiver. I think he will probably, or has the potential to be the number one overall scorer in fantasy this year.
All three guys do.
Yeah, I think any one of these three can do it.
I think to answer your question, they all deserve to be in that tier. I think Julio probably deserves to be in the bottom of that tier, but I personally have him as the head of tier 2.
I agree with you on Julio. Julio's just not a consistent player. I'm sorry. He hasn't last year didn't get into the end zone enough, put up a lot of yardage. That's fine. Didn't get in I think he only had 3 touchdowns or 4 all season last year. But more so, his history has been very up and down. He does give you a 40-point game once or twice a year, but he also has a lot of under 15-point games, which I really can't accept, at least from a first rounder, but I'm certainly cool with it at the top of tier 2 when I'm comparing him with a different group of wide receivers as compared to Brown, Hopkins, and Beckham, who I think will be remarkably consistent with 20-plus point performances throughout the year. My main reason...
I don't know.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
But I'm just going to say, my main reason, again, for Hopkins above Brown is just because it has a lot more to do with a plethora of other weapons in Pittsburgh, combined with a quarterback that's old and gets injured every single year. Now, you might say Watson also got injured. Whatever. Watson's young. He's coming back, and, I'm not convinced he's an injury-prone player, whereas Roethlisberger is old, and he just gets hurt every year at this point. His style of play just gets him hurt.
It was more that Odell Beckham, I think, well, with Hopkins, something I looked at the other day that my attention was brought to was offensive line. And I think everywhere in the middle, it's kind of like, what's really the difference between like the 6th best offensive line and the 6th worst? Who knows? That's just kind of people grading out watching tape. But I think at the very, very fringes, like the best 2 offensive lines and maybe like the worst 2 or 3, there's cause for concern there. And Houston is grading out on multiple rankings as the bottom 2 offensive line. That is what scared me a little bit about the running game there, and certainly Deshaun Watson coming off an injury. Is he going to be under attack literally every time he snaps the ball like Russell Wilson was last year? That's the part of concern. I still think Hopkins is a top 3 receiver, but at the end of the day, that pushed him down to 3 and moved Beckham above him for me.
It's all about splitting hairs. These are all awesome players, and you can't go wrong. I think the second part of this question would be where in the draft. Now let's start with assumptions, because I always like to start with my assumptions. My assumptions are always the same. It's a 12-team league. It's a PPR or half-point PPR format. Doesn't matter. I don't draft differently for those 2 formats, really. And it's a 12-team league, and you have the standard roster size: 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, a tight end, and a flex. So, a fairly deep 12-team league. We know we really want running backs early this year because they're just going off the board like crazy. There's a lot of studly ones. But an argument can be made for, super stud wide receivers being undervalued this year and being the way to go as far as if you're going to do a value-based drafting approach. So where are you comfortable taking your first wide receiver pick, be it Brown or Hopkins or whoever you favor the most?
Okay.
At what point in the draft?
You're asking basically who are the running backs that would have to be gone before I take Antonio Brown, who's my number 1 rank.
And I'm just and let me throw the names out there because to understand the tiers, right? We have the tier 1 of running backs, which is Zeke, David Johnson, Gurley, and Bell. We have tier 2, and you can kind of adjust this however you want, but I put in my second tier, I'd say Kamara and Saquon Barkley. And then we have what I consider tier 3, which is a very big tier with Kareem Hunt, Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, and Melvin Gordon. I don't have Melvin Gordon in tier 3 personally, but he is there via ADP. So at what point, is it midway through tier 2? Is it after tier 1? Where are you taking your first wide receiver this year?
I have Kareem Hunt grouped into that group of running backs that I would take ahead of the receivers. And I'll tell you why. That Kareem Hunt in like a normal year, we have so many great running backs at the top. And what makes them great is their ability to catch the football and do it all. In the last 4 years where there wasn't that many guys, there was like David Johnson and there was Le'Veon Bell. That was it. Kareem Hunt checks all the boxes and would be the type of player that has number 1 overall upside. There's not a ton of difference between the guys going at the top and Kareem Hunt. He's a 3-down back in a good offense that catches passes.
All right, let's not get too much into running backs because what's happening right now is you're making me want to counter your point, and I don't want to do it. I just want to talk wide receivers.
So, I think that Antonio Brown, tier 1 would have to be off the board, tier 2 would have to be off the board, and Kareem Hunt probably would have to be off the board. I have Antonio Brown slotted in at number 8 overall. I'd take him ahead of Gordon and Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, I'm with you, and that's about where I'm taking Hopkins off the board. Gordon, Fournette are available still, Dalvin Cook, but I'm going with Hopkins because he's a stud, and I'm praying that Dalvin Cook falls to me in the second round. All right, so now that we get an idea of where we should be taking some of these guys, so our top 3, our orders, your and mine are a little different, but it's Hopkins, Brown, and Odell Beckham. We're in agreement there. Your next group, again, these are probably second rounders. And, some of the names, Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen, AJ Green, Devontae Adams, Doug Baldwin, and Mike Evans. And that's all a group that I find very similar. Evans, towards the end of the list, because his quarterback situation is really, really sketchy right now. But he could be the best of this group, or he can move his way up, certainly. Julio Jones, injury issues the last few years, leg problems. This is why these guys are outside of Tier 1. I mean, Julio Jones is the man, but, the guy's got leg issues, like hammy issues. Who do you like most in this group? Like, am I missing someone? Did I leave too many in there?
Okay, the one guy who I think belongs in this group that isn't so far, and there's a reason for it, I think just on a skill set is T.Y. Hilton belongs in this group. The only reason he is not was the health of Andrew Luck. Reports are starting to get better and better with Andrew Luck. Let me ask you, throw it back to you. If we see in the preseason an Andrew Luck that is back to being some form of himself and working his way in, and we feel confident in Andrew Luck, are you cool with T.Y. Hilton in that group?
I mean, I think towards the end of the group, he's still going to be a little bit inconsistent, but I think more importantly is T.Y. Hilton is one of the players that may be a little bit undervalued this year because we've seen what he's done without Luck, and it's very inconsistent, and it's not a guy you're really excited about. Certainly not as a WR1, but I think he's a bottom half WR1.
He's a steal in the third round.
I mean, well, let's look at, at what number wide receiver is he coming off the board? Right now he's wide receiver 13. Coming off the board by ADP at this moment today. He's coming off the board after Larry Fitzgerald, after Adam Thielen, after Mike Evans, after Doug Baldwin, after Devontae Adams. So I certainly would move him up right to that Doug Baldwin range. Do you take Hilton or Baldwin first at WR9?
Well, today is the 31st of July. There was some news that broke earlier today. Baldwin's going to be out for multiple weeks with some sort of a foot problem. I could look it up.
Does he have the foot and mouth disease? Because that shit's going around like crazy.
That I'm not sure of.
Have you heard about this? There's like 20 baseball players with foot and mouth disease right now.
No, I have not. I haven't been following baseball. You told me about it on the last pod, and I kind of thought you were kidding. It sounds horrendous. But here's the latest note. I don't want to do it while I'm talking to you. It's horrible radio. But I read that he's going to be out for a few weeks.
I didn't even hear about this.
Yeah.
Well, let's sweep that aside because that's just the preseason news. Like whatever.
But that news affects where I would draft him today because I was so happy to get Doug Baldwin in the middle of the second round. I probably at this point, if I was drafting today and didn't know, I'm probably moving guys like Juju Smith-Schuster ahead of him. I know definitely Devontae Adams and AJ Green, Tyreek Hill. So I would move Baldwin. I think Baldwin firmly moves into the third round out of the second round, possibly to the end of the third round.
Yeah, it looks like he has knee inflammation, by the way. And Baldwin's not he's going to miss a few weeks. And it's interesting, Baldwin's not a young player. He's 30 years old. That's the issue with these older guys, right? He's hitting 30, starting to have knee problems.
It's not again. It's who's healthy now, and it would be hard for me to pull the trigger on my second round pick with a guy who's already having a problem.
Dude, I know
when there's so many other options. This kind of upside in the fourth round, sure, but right now you got to go with a safer guy. So all those guys you named, I would take ahead of him if I'm drafting today.
Let me tell you about knee problems. I know about knee problems. Okay, let me tell you a story. I joined a bowling league a couple of years ago. All right, with this guy. Don't even ask. Dude was begging me to bowl with him. All right, so I'm like, you know what?
Are you good? Are you a good bowler?
No, I haven't bowled in 20 years. So I'm like, all right, I figure I'm going to be the sucky guy on the team because this other guy is gassing me up to join a bowling league with him.
Well, I'm sure the guy was a good friend. He had a good personality.
No, not much going on there. But it was a Thursday night league, and it was going to get me out of the house on Thursday night football night. So I was like, you know what? If I can have a few hours of just quiet watching Thursday night football, and I'll toss some bowling ball around a little bit too while I'm there, it seemed like not the worst thing in the world to do. All right? Now,
how did that work for you? How did it work out?
First of all, I'm going to tell you about the knee problems. So my knee starts acting up, and I can't bend it at all. My knee was all messed up. I couldn't even really bend it. So first of all, you can imagine what I look like bowling, where I have to literally drag my right foot behind me and just kind of skip my way towards the thing with the foot just dragging there. Because if I pushed off of it, it would give me this pain that I couldn't even live with. So I had to basically do this ridiculous walk to bowl. But even worse was I was supposed to be the weak link. I'm like, all right, I'll come join your bowling league, figuring if this dude's in a bowling league, he must be good. Dude, I'm carrying the team. This guy doesn't even have a busted knee, and he was terrible. It was horrible.
Yeah, great. Actually, I like the story because I know all the characters in it, but I'm sure your listeners are overwhelmed with boredom at this point, waiting for us to know who to draft in the second
Just my
fucking round
busted up
here.
knee, though. I'm telling you, Baldwin's got that busted knee, man. It took me a long time to recover from that.
Yeah, I want to put you. I want just to, and I do love that story. You know it. I'm the one who actually made you tell it. But hey, where are you on a guy that last year I couldn't understand all the hate for him? I grabbed Tyreek Hill in the third round everywhere last year. I can't believe he's back in the third round again. Are you in on Tyreek Hill with a cannon-armed Pat Mahomes, or are you weary of him?
I'm 17 best ball drafts into this season. And I don't have a single share of Tyreek Hill.
He's the ultimate best ball player because this guy gets huge weeks.
He is, but he also is in a spot. He goes off the board in a place where I never end up taking him, and I'll tell you why. I'm fine with I think there's some mystery with Hill. Watkins is on the team now, maybe going to get some targets. They have a new quarterback. He's a rookie. Don't know what his deal is, if he'll be able to complete the type of passes that Tyreek Hill needs. Hill is a very boom or bust player, and in the third round, I want a little more consistency than that. I like the best ball concept, but my other problem is wherever Tyreek Hill is on the board, which is usually that mid-third round area, that's where you're making a choice between him and one of the stud tight ends, of which there are only 3. So I'm looking at
tight end early. You're a tight end early guy.
Yeah, I want to get. I'm trying to get. I never get Gronk. I never go for Gronk, but I do like to try to get a Travis Kelce or a Zach Ertz when I can. And if Kelsey's on the board and I'm looking between him and Tyreek Hill, I'd rather have Travis Kelce, and I just end up with him on my team and not Tyreek Hill. That's something that has been pretty consistent for me. I like to have one really good tight end on my team. For best ball, and also for season long, unless it's a very deep team where I don't really care about, that position, you can almost punt it. But yeah, I have been trying to get like a Kelce or Zach Ertz, basically or like a Kenyon Drake, whatever quality running back might still be on the board. So I haven't ended up with any shares of Tyreek Hill, but I don't mind him as a player.
I mean, let me ask you, just straight up, this year only, in a PPR, do you like Kelce better? Forget ADP. Kelce better or Gronk better? Who would you take straight up to say that it's ADP neutral? You already have 2 picks done. They're both on the board. You're ready to take one.
Yeah,
Who do you like better?
I'm taking Gronk.
Okay. I have Kelce ahead of him. One, the durability. Although Kelce wasn't a picture of health before last year, I just think younger PPR, he catches more receptions. Gronk in a PPR, the guy only catches like 65 passes. Remember, Kelce, who has 80 catch upside, 75 catch upside, let's just call it 75. That's an extra 10 catches. That's like an extra 2 touchdowns, basically. I mean, Gronk certainly has double-digit touchdown upside every year, but with the injury risk and the PPR sort of, let's call it deficiency, that's why I have Kelce a little bit ahead of him.
I don't have any problem with that, but Kelsey's not going to twerk after a touchdown, and I like to twerk with my players when they're twerking.
Does twerking get you fantasy points? I always used to make the joke. I said, I'll draft Saddam Hussein if it'll get me fantasy points.
No,
I don't care.
You can't put Ray Rice on your team, man, or Saddam Hussein.
Oh, I would take a team of all
bad karma. Bad karma. It's bad karma for your fantasy team.
I don't think so.
No, I will whore my team out to whoever will score the most points. But no, Gronk with no Julian Edelman for a few games. He's going to be so beastly for those few games. I think that'll make up for a little bit. But like I said, I don't have any problem with Kelce first. Kelce's a younger guy, maybe a little more durable. Gronk is always getting hurt. And, I don't think that's changing anytime soon. All right, so let's keep running through some of these wide receivers. Cooper, Amari Cooper is a guy who I like better than his ADP. Right now, Cooper is going after guys like Tyreek Hill, Demaryius Thomas, Larry Fitzgerald, Adam Thielen, and I like him a little bit better, I think, than Demaryius Thomas and Larry Fitzgerald. I'd have him a few spots higher.
Can I do a little either or for you? I'm going to give you either or. You're on the clock. You got 3 seconds to decide after I give you the either or. Okay, I'm going to give you 5 names. Either or.
Okay.
And Amari Cooper or Juju?
Cooper, absolutely.
Okay. Amari Cooper or Thielen?
Cooper.
Okay. Amari Cooper or Allen Robinson?
Cooper all the way.
Wow. Okay, so you're in. I'll give you. You basically have Cooper as a wide receiver 1. You have him as your 12th overall receiver.
He's right at the top of either number 12 overall. Let me see where I have him in my rankings, but he's right at the top of round 1 or sort of, at the top of round 2 or the bottom of round 1 for me. That's where I have Cooper. Listen,
wow, you have like him significantly because he is consistently going in the late third round. If aggressive drafters are getting him in the early third.
In my rankings, I have Cooper ahead of Mike Evans at WR10.
Okay, so I didn't know that. So all right, so you're going to get him so if he goes to the third round, it's an auto click for you. You're even considering it at the end of the second.
I have him a lot. Let's put it that way. He's on so many of my teams just for this reason because I don't really understand. I get it. He dropped passes. He's a pass dropper. But
I don't think that's a skill. Like all these guys got to the NFL because they can catch passes. That could have been like a lack of concentration thing. You never know what was going on there. I'm never worried about guys that drop passes. They made it to the NFL. This guy is a first round high pedigree pick. That'll be fine. The concentration will get better.
I mean, I hope so. But I mean, I think he's going to have all the opportunity with Crabtree gone and kind of Jordy Nelson being a shell of his former self. They just didn't add any other pass catchers in Oakland to challenge for targets. So they still like Cooper. Carr likes him. He's going to throw to him a lot, and I think he's going to have a more consistent year than somebody who has to compete with who has other issues like Mike Evans with quarterback problems or Adam Thielen who has to compete with Stephon Diggs. Like which one of these guys is going to have the big game? Or Allen Robinson, who we haven't actually seen Trubisky show competency at the quarterback level yet. We think he might.
Well, you talked about competition for targets, so I want to ask you a question. Jordy Nelson, who is now with the Raiders, would be the closest thing, I guess, to competition.
He is the competition.
So, are you under the impression that Jordy is just totally toast, or do you think he has something left in the tank? And where are you comfortable? What round in a 12-team 3-receiver in a flex league? What round are you comfortable drafting him in? Because I don't have any Jordy in 60 best ball drafts.
Jordy Nelson to me is a WR5. So he's somebody that I'm looking at after. I take Dez Bryant ahead of him, just assuming that Dez is going somewhere more helpful. But he's going off the board for me after names, or right in the group of names like Marquise Lee, Kelvin Benjamin, Calvin Ridley, Nelson Aguilar.
Well, those guys are round 9 guys. I see Jordy going up the board in like round 7. That's what I'm saying. I'm out at round 7.
Yeah, no, I'm not taking him there. I think there's a lot of people who draft based on the player name, but Nelson just didn't look good when anyone but Rodgers has been at the helm for the Packers the last couple of years, and it's been pretty consistent. Even when he's been healthy, all of a sudden Devontae Adams was the man last year when Rodgers was out, and I can't even remember the name of the quarterback that replaced him was in there, but where the hell was Nelson? He was healthy. He didn't do shit. So I think Jordy Nelson is kind of maybe a system player, and maybe he's a little bit over the hill, age 31, 32, been slowing down. I mean, why did the Packers let him go if he was any good?
I haven't crossed off my list, basically. I mean, obviously there's a point where everybody becomes valuable. I don't even think in like the 10th round. I think I'd rather have guys like Kelvin Benjamin ahead of him.
Yeah.
I certainly would love to take a player like Robbie Anderson ahead of him.
Oh my gosh, Robbie Anderson, I'm way higher on than the field, by the way.
Yeah, I think he's a star. I think he's a star in the making for sure.
I mean, I have him. I have Robbie Anderson at the bottom of the WR3 list.
I mean that's where he's being drafted. But would you be surprised?
No, I see him. He's being drafted as the number 42 overall wide receiver, where I have him as the number 32. So I have him significantly ahead of his draft position.
Yeah, he's 6'3". He's fast. I think he runs a 4.4. He's young. If Sam Darnold comes in there and is any good, I mean, this guy is a speedster. He's going to get behind defenses. I literally think that he's a star, and he is one of these guys we could be talking about in the second round or third round next year. I think it's just that kind of upside.
Listen, here's my feeling with Robbie Anderson, and I'm going to go back to my college days to give you an example. Okay, because this is going to blow your mind. Or maybe not. Maybe it'll be stupid. But, all right. Back in the day, you're in college, you didn't have no money, and you wanted to get yourself a 12-pack, right, of beers. Try to gather it up with your buddies. So basically, you'd split off who's going to go to the gas station and pick up a 12-pack, right? Because that was the only place we could walk to. Now, the gas station worker was a cool guy who let us buy underage beers back in the day, and so we all used to go in there. But we had one friend that had no money. But when it was his turn to get the 12-pack, basically he's got to go get a 12-pack from this place. So he'd go in there, pick up a 12-pack, put it to the thing, be like, how much is it? The guy's like, $8.99. He'd just pick up the 12-pack, scream, Yahoo! And run out like a lunatic and steal the beer. Okay. Now, Robbie Anderson is that guy you'd want to send in to do the Yahoo. All right, brother.
You think he's nuts? I mean, what did he really do? He did reckless driving.
He was cursing out the cop, telling him, "I'll kill your family." Like,
yeah, but I mean, he was. Listen, I don't condone any of that. Obviously, he's wrong. But the original crime that he was being quote arrested for was reckless driving. I don't think there's anyone that's listening to this podcast that hasn't drove recklessly.
Wait a minute. No one's issue was reckless driving. The issue is then after he gets busted, he starts going crazy on the cop, telling him he's going to kill him and his family, or like saying some crazy shit. That was the problem with Robbie Anderson. So he is a nutbag. But
by the way, I said he was 22. He's 25 years old.
That's even worse. He should be smarter than what the hell he's doing. All right, so he's a nut. This is why he's at the end of the WR position. Listen, he could bust out. He could get a DWI tomorrow. He could just be such a mental fuck up that he can't learn a new playbook.
I don't know.
We don't know.
I think you're casting aspersions. I think that's just that's a large leap from reckless driving. Listen, you and I, if you're stopped by a police officer, yes, you're supposed to just cooperate and do what they said, but you just don't know what someone's going through. Now, should he have said those things? No. But I love when the crime is resisting arrest when you originally shouldn't have been arrested in the first place. Imagine if you were pulled out of a car and arrested for driving recklessly, not drunk, just recklessly. And, I'm not saying that you would handle it the same way, but again, I don't put him in that nutty category. I just think that he's a young guy that did a couple crazy things, and I told you I would draft Saddam Hussein on my fantasy team. So,
all right, let's play.
We'll have Robbie Anderson.
Let's play. Would you rather? Would you rather Robbie Anderson or Pierre Garçon?
Anderson.
Wow, Robbie Anderson or Michael Crabtree?
Oh, again, these are easy ones for me. I don't think Anderson, but this is regardless of ADP, right? Because we know Crabtree's going in the 5th and Anderson's not going till the 9th or 10th.
I'm talking about straight up, no ADP. I'm not saying wait on Anderson or take Crabtree 5 rounds earlier. I'm talking about you're given a choice. It's your pick. You have to pick Anderson. A wide receiver. Jarvis Landry.
Give me the 25-year-old speedster that can get downfield, high point the ball, is a touchdown machine over the sort of 5 yard to catch Michael Crabtree.
All right, wait. I got a great one for you because you wanted a 25-year-old speedster that can score touchdowns. Will Fuller or Robbie Anderson?
Yeah, I think it's close. Will Fuller definitely has the better quarterback. I would say.
Now you remember that Robbie Anderson is on the Jets.
Yeah, Yeah. Again,
Okay,
I
just
think that
making
the Jets wide receiver core, I think, is underrated. I think they're actually one of the deeper wide receiver cores as a whole, with getting Quincy Enunwa back. They have, obviously they have Anderson, who I'm advocating for right now. Terrell Pryor last year was injured. I still think that he has a chance to be good. And, they're going to have some other decent targets there. Again, I think they're an underrated. You'd asked me about who was the last person that you'd asked me about to compare him to?
Will Fuller.
Fuller. Yeah, I think that probably Will Fuller.
Got to go Fuller there. Fuller is
Yeah.
Robbie Anderson on a better team with a better quarterback,
Right,
with more
right.
pedigree. I mean,
Yeah, it's probably where I would draw
and
the
without
line.
the resisting arrest issues. All right, so Will Fuller is where we drew the line. Corey Davis or Robbie Anderson?
Man, are you on board with Corey Davis? I'm nervous about him. I have, yeah. I mean,
You're always nervous about a player you haven't seen do it. This is cognitive bias. You got to wipe that shit out and say,
yeah,
what is his potential this year?
Okay, so last year we saw Corey Davis as a rookie. He had 10 targets in the first game. We got excited. Then in the beginning of the second game, he got hurt. He was out for 9 weeks. The final few weeks after that, he didn't do shit. He did score a couple touchdowns in the playoffs, so that kind of got me back on board again. I see people getting aggressive at drafting him in the 5th, 6th round. For me, that's a little too rich. I probably am going to miss out on him in the 5th or 6th round.
Are you comfortable with Corey Davis as your third wide receiver on your PPR team?
Yes.
WR3. I mean, that's what he is, right? He's a WR3. He's being drafted at the top of the WR3 crew, or right in the middle of it, but that's where he's going.
Well, I'd either he's going around guys like Robert Woods. I'd rather have Robert Woods, who's a little more boring.
Wait. Hold up. Because Robert Woods is one of my overvalued guys. You're going to take Robert Woods, who's competing with Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks for targets in a low-volume passing offense, over Corey Davis, who's competing with no one for targets in a similarly medium-volume passing offense.
Yeah, you make a good point there. So I'll retract that. It's actually a really good point. Davis is set for a breakout. I was a little worried about him. Woods was really good last year, and he is Jared Goff's number one read when he's going through his progressions. Woods is still only 26 years old. He's in his peak. He's in his Sean McVay offense. As my WR3, if I'm looking for a floor play at that point, I'm taking Robert Woods. If I'm shooting for the stars and I want to go for it all, and Corey Davis is definitely a guy who has the draft pedigree to be a number one wide receiver. You're probably right on that.
No, I'm glad that we actually got into that because Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, we've said this on some of the other ones, and I've touched upon it, but I think Cooks, Woods, and Kupp are all going way, way too high. Brandon Cook right now is going as WR2, number 18 overall.
Brandon Cooks is going too high. I mean, he's had 1,000 yards a couple times already. I just think in that specific offense, we saw Sammy Watkins act as more of a guy. He was open last year. The guys that study film all agree that he was open. He did create separation. It's just Jared Goff didn't make it to him on his progression reads. I think that, and unless Goff takes a huge step forward, I think he's still going to go to his two favorite targets this year, which is Woods and Cooper Kupp, especially in the end zone.
We have a hard time knowing this. There's no way we can know this going into the season. What's going to be with Cooks? They paid a lot. They paid a high price for him. Whatever. But we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with Robert Woods either, which is why, and Cooper Kupp the same. So all of these guys are way too overvalued, especially considering the fact that Jared Goff is like QB 19 or 14. So he's not even being drafted as a QB1, which means people are not expecting this guy to do a lot of scoring from the quarterback position, which tells me his wide receivers shouldn't do that much. This is classic daily fantasy sports strategy applied to season-long football, but I can't even stack Jared Goff with anyone because he's got so many targets. You don't really even want to stack him because he can have a big game, and none of the wide receivers have a big game, right?
I think it all depends. It all depends on your personal strategy, and I think I see where we're differing here. In my third wide receiver position, I usually am not shooting for the stars. I personally am taking a little more risk at that flex and my bench guys. When I'm trying to lock in the 7th round or so, my 3rd wide receiver, I'm looking for, I guess what's a perceived safe floor. So that's why I like a guy like Robert Woods, Emmanuel Sanders, guys that I think can get me 12, 13 PPR points every week, have an occasional blow up week, but I just don't want I want guys that are getting 7, 8 targets a week. And I think that's, again, just a personal strategy thing. And because remember, in a regular league with one QB, the standard league, what we were talking about, all you got to do is get into the playoffs. All you have to do is be a top 6 team. In some of these larger tournaments, DFS, you have to win it all. I think that those guys, like you said, make no sense in these large tournaments because they don't have the upside.
Yeah, you're trying to win. I'm going for Corey Davis over all those guys. Corey Davis could bust, but he got a ton of targets last year. He really, he never quite clicked with Mariota, but it's a new year. They've had a whole offseason. Yeah, he looked better in the playoffs or in the fantasy playoffs, I think it was. No,
I'm saying in the actual playoff game against New England, I thought he looked good. He caught 2 touchdowns in that game.
I'm talking about the big game. Yeah, he had the big game in the playoffs. That's right. I don't know how much that means, but I think the fact that they didn't bring back Eric Decker is a big deal. Rashard Matthews still isn't looked at as a high volume guy. So, what's his name? The tight end, Delaney Walker, is a year older, a year slower.
Don't overlook Tywan Taylor, too, 2nd-year player.
Yeah, but he's got a role that he's going to play, and it's not the same role. Tywan Taylor's going to be a burner.
Slot guy, yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be a burner, a slot guy. Corey Davis is the big outside wide receiver for this team, and he's got to be the highest target volume wide receiver if that passing offense is going to be any good. So, what about Jarvis Landry? Would you rather, let's say Robbie Anderson or Jarvis Landry? Is this even a crazy question?
Yeah, I think in PPR, it's Jarvis Landry. They brought him there he's going to suck up all those easy receptions.
From who?
I think
From who? Tyrod Taylor doesn't throw more than 15 passes a game.
Right. I think that could change this year. Tyrod Taylor doesn't turn the ball over. One of the best things about Tyrod Taylor is he has one of the lowest, if not the lowest, interception rate in the whole NFL. And he likes to throw those 6-7 yard passes. It's just you don't get a lot of picks. And you get a lot of completions when you throw those 6-yard passes, and that's why they brought Landry in for that safe 6-yard pass. I think they're going to pass more on first down instead of what some of these old coaches do from like the retread 80s guys. They just run on 1st and 10. Here they're trying to pass, gain 4 or 5 yards on first down. I think Jarvis Landry is a player that if you can get him in the 4th, 5th round, he'll be a perfectly good PPR asset. Again, those are cheap PPR points. He's not going to score a lot of touchdowns, but I could see a situation where the floor for Jarvis Landry is like 85 catches, 900 yards, and maybe 6 scores. But in PPR, that's perfectly reasonable.
I do hope that happens, right? I hope it happens, but I have concerns. Part of the reason I dropped Jarvis Landry, and let's jump over to some sleepers now as I finish this up, but I dropped Jarvis Landry down because he's going to move back up if this whole Gordon thing turns out to be Gordon like messing up again, and who knows what's happening with Josh Gordon right now. Seriously, there's some weird shit going on there. You don't just miss the first week of training camp to get some rest. I don't know what the hell he's doing, but doesn't sound good to me. So if he's gone, then yeah, I'm back on board the Jarvis Landry train. Going to jack him up my rankings. But I don't know, sharing targets with, I think Josh Gordon, if he was in there, and we don't know what his deal is, but if he's in there, he demands the ball. I mean, he's so freaking good that he demands it. Well,
I don't know. I mean, Gordon lit the league on fire in 2013, I think it was 2013 as a 22-year-old, and we've seen him come back a couple times. He was fine. I mean, he's in sick shape. He's a freak athlete. He's still relatively young, but it's been 5 years now. I mean,
could it be a Kenny Britt situation where you had those 2 incredible short seasons where you thought this is the greatest thing ever? But the difference was Britt got injured. This guy hasn't been hurt.
Kenny Britt had 2 monster games, 2 200-yard games in a row. That's why people were excited about him. Josh Gordon, at 22-year-olds, in 14 games, led the league in receiving. I mean, led the league, the NFL in receiving yards as a 22-year-old in 14 games.
He was the best. He was the best DFS guy. He was
That's
basically what DeAndre Hopkins is now, which is why I love DeAndre Hopkins. But he had that season where I remember every single week, everybody's like, oh, you got to fade Gordon. He's not going to keep doing it. And I was like, fuck that. I'm going back. And they just kept jacking up the price. It was awesome for Daly.
Yeah. When you catch fire like that, especially in DFS, because I know, you and the people on your side are DFS masters, and when you catch lightning in a bottle like that and everyone's fading, it must be the best feeling.
Oh, you got to stay on board. Yeah. So let's talk about some sleepers now.
Yeah, I was going to say sleepers, and if you want to just kind of work in rookies to that, are there any rookies that you're drafting this year that you feel good about starting, or is like before the 10th round? Are there any rookie receivers this year that appeal to you? That's what I'm interested in.
I mean, for me, there's a few actually. I don't even say there's a small number. There are a few rookies that I think look really good. Let me get the names up in front of me here as you threw that at me, a little bit of a surprise. But I think Calvin Ridley is one of the names that you kind of got to like for Atlanta. He looks like he'll be good. DJ Moore for the Panthers looks good. But the Cowboys rookie, and I'm trying to, what's his name?
Michael Gallup.
Yeah, Gallup. He looks like he could be something special. I don't normally like rookie wide receivers. I think it takes wide receivers a little bit of time to kind of figure themselves out in the NFL. But Gallo, Christian Kirk is on the list. Very late, though. Not comfortable starting. I don't know if I'm comfortable starting any one of these guys. You?
DJ Moore, I think, has a chance to be good right away. And he looked like one of those guys that so far in early camp that he looks the part, and there's no established guy there. I mean, Devin Funchess is the most established guy. He's not an established guy. He just kind of was there. Yeah. They traded away Kelvin Benjamin last year. Greg Olsen is the tight end that catches passes for sure. Christian McCaffrey is going to get a boatload of targets. But at the wide receiver position, they brought this guy in. He was the first wide receiver off the board. I think DJ Moore has a chance. If you can, I'm aggressively drafting him in the 9th, 10th round. Maybe by draft season he'll go higher if he has a play in the preseason. He is only 21 years old, and rookie wide receivers have disappointed the last couple of years, but I think he has a chance. He's the only guy I'm looking at before the 10th round right now.
I mean, I think that the names are there. You have Moore, and the other names I think that are of interest. Again, Gallup, all situational. Gallup, there's no wide receivers on the Cowboys, so why not?
Ridley, I'm worried about only because I think the upside is capped. You have Julio Jones, who's a target hog. He gets his every year. And Mohamed Sanu. I'm not saying he's good, but he's the established veteran. He's decent.
I'm not sure if I'm a believer in Sanu, but yeah, you're right. It could be capped for this year.
Coaches love those like established veterans, those sure-handed guys that they put on the field. If both of their running backs catch a ton of passes, Freeman is good for at least 40 catches. Coleman should get at least 35 to 40 catches. I'm just not sure how much is actually going to be there for Ridley to really have a breakout season. Sure, you could project them. I think if Ridley has a season where he catches 58 passes for 650 yards and 3 touchdowns, the Falcons are going to be thrilled.
Yeah, I think that'd be fine. I think with Ridley, it's more of a play on Julio Jones' frequent injuries, and if he kind of goes out, I think maybe that'll give someone like Ridley a chance for a few games. But I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to give you a big season.
Injuries change everything. We can't project. You can only talk about that they're healthy now.
No, but yeah, I mean, that's where for him to have a good year, a special year, something where he's going to be like even someone you're really wanting to start on a weekly basis. Outside of the deepest type of leagues, it's pretty much going to have to be an injury to Julio, I think, to get him there. Whereas someone like Gallup, Gallup has no competition for.
Well, it's a couple guys there, Allen Hurns, and we've definitely gone through that. Why don't we finish it up where we each name one guy that I guess is a sleeper value pick. I don't really like to use the term sleeper too much anymore because everybody knows about all of these guys, the internet, the blurbs, everyone reads them. But who's a guy that you are pumped to get in the 10th round or later that you could see being an every week starter for you at the wide receiver position? Why don't you name one and then I'll name one?
All right, let me jump over to my handy.
You prefer me to
ranking? I mean, Robbie Anderson would have been that guy. Right, he's one of those guys. But
talked about him.
And right now, I mean, there's some. These aren't as exciting of names, but like Des Bryant, I'm just taking him. Fuck it. He's going 45th, 49th wide receiver off the board. That's, pick 127. He's going in the 10th round. And when he gets a team, that will change. But I think that's a cop-out pick, so I don't want to make that my pick. But I do like Dez there. But if I'm going to go deeper into the sleeper area to find somebody late, more of a best ball play for me than in regular season.
You're drafting today. No, not best ball. Season long draft. I think people are transitioning. All these guys are always better in best ball because you just need them to hit once or twice in the season.
In best ball, I'm going deeper. It's kind of like best ball for me. It's like DraftKings. On DraftKings, you got to find a super punt every single week, whereas FanDuel, you don't really have to. So I'm going to go with Quincy Enunwa.
Yeah, it's a perfectly good pick right there. Yeah. We talked about it, and then we'll come in back.
We've had him on other. We've talked about it on some of the other pods, but I really like Enunwa. He looked like a possession. He looked like a young Brandon Marshall for the Jets in his first year. Got some size to him, some possession ability. Not your deep burner. That's going to be the role I think Robbie Anderson plays. But I think Enunwa could be a guy that is the primary number one wide receiver for the team. He's going so late. He's going WR, 65. He's going in he's on your bench 3 deep before you got to Enunwa, and he can end up starting for you as your WR3 every week. So that's a guy I like late.
Yeah, I'm not drafting Enunwa. I don't think that he's going to get drafted in many leagues. I think that you could certainly easily get him with your last pick.
Yeah. I dived really deep. Like I said, I dived really deep with that one because I like Dez also, and you can get him at the end of your draft as well.
Yeah, the problem is, what if Dez signs with the Browns? You're not going to like him at all. Here's a guy that I've drafted so here's the problem with drafting like I do in February best balls, March best ball drafts. You start off with who you like. And then you kind of get bored with the guys you have, or you don't want to get over too many shares. But I'm back on this guy. A player that I'm going to be targeting in all my season-long drafts is I really like Kenny Stills, a 26-year-old wide receiver. He's in Miami. He was really good in spots. He's still super fast, great hands. We talked about Devontae Parker on the last podcast. I'm not 100% believer that he's put it all together yet. I think Kenny Stills is the number one wide receiver in Miami. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to have 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns.
What if Albert Wilson takes his spot, and then he's not a player?
Well, Wilson, that's good. Listen, you're making fun of my Wilson pick from last time.
Yeah, one of these guys is going to have to sit.
Yeah, I think Kenny Stills is going to be solid. In the 12th round. He's a guy that can light it up. He's a younger version of almost like Ted Ginn. He's fast. He has great hands. He's reliable. He's not on a great offense, but I think you'll be really happy. Kenny Stills is going to have a lot of playable weeks. You'll be able to put in a 3-receiver and a flex league when you're desperate on bye weeks. You're going to be really happy to have him. So I'm picking Kenny Stills in the 11th, 12th round every time.
I love it. All right, we're going to wrap it up there. Alan, thanks for coming on the show again. That's Season Long Says at Alan Seslowski on Twitter. Look him up. Talk him some fantasy football. Who should I start? Who should I sit? Ask Alan. He's on Twitter. He's answering questions. I'm Kevin, the Fantasy Football Geek. For anybody listening, and if you want to see my rankings or Alan's rankings, go to DFS Army. Alan's rankings. Go to DFSArmy.com. Go to the NFL Season Long Fantasy Football tab. Check it out there. We got my whole rankings up. We've got a little podcast broken down by position group. It's really good stuff. If you want to get involved with daily fantasy football, go to DFSArmy.com. Get signed up as a VIP member. That is what we do. That's how we roll. We produce winners. This week alone, Alan, you don't even know this. This week was ridiculous. This week alone, we had a $100,000 winner. We had a $50,000 winner. We had a $20,000 winner. We had a $10,000 winner. It was ridiculous. All the screenshots. I mean, the money is crazy. Guys taking down tournaments. It's amazing what happens when you give average players, your regular guys, the same kind of tools that professional players use to dominate the industry. We see our guys doing it. This week, Big Poppy, $10,000. Other guy, Garfield, $20,000. $50,000 for another guy, BV. We got $100,000 for Oyster Dude. It was ridiculous, all in 1 week. The screenshots are all over the place. They're using our tools. They're making lots of money. So Join up at dfsarmy.com. Get my advice all season long. We got a ton of tools, optimization tools, everything you need for DraftKings, FanDuel, all that good stuff. That's it for this time. We'll be back again. Again, Alan, thanks for being with me. And always a good time doing these. And we'll do a few more of these before the season starts.
Peace and love.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to the DFS Army podcast. Join the DFS Army today and gain access to our private Slack chat, where you can chat with real DFS pros and coaches, as well as other DFS Army members with winning track records. Also included in your membership is access to our premium articles, DFS Army weighted projections for every sport we offer, from NFL to MMA, weekly player picks and cheat sheets, the strategy vault of timeless concepts, and the DFS Army Domination Station, a truly state-of-the-art lineup optimizer, offering your personal projections or ours. The DFS Army membership is the best value across the industry. Join today and get 2 free ebooks, as well as the secrets to unlocking a new level to your game.